Peace be upon you. If we consider life as circles, the most important circle is the marriage circle. This circle can be the reason for your happiness, or it can also be the reason for your misery. Welcome back, and this is the program Crime Story. Story 1 in 2017. In Riyadh province, in a small village within the province, there lived a young man named Muhammad, aged 19, with his family in a house they owned. Muhammad, after completing his diploma, worked in several places. But his income was not enough to cover his obligations, nor even his personal expenses. Therefore, he was constantly looking for work, whether inside his province or in any other province, and the location of the work did not matter to him. What mattered was the salary he would receive at the beginning of each month. One day, an advertisement for a job in Jeddah province reached him. He contacted the ad owners and scheduled an interview. He traveled, and after the interview, he was accepted for the job. Muhammad was happy with his new job, and his joy increased when he learned that the salary was large. He immediately informed his family of the news. After a few days, he settled in Jeddah and started his work. One day, a girl who worked with him caught his attention, and from the first glance, he could not take his eyes off her, due to her innocence and simplicity of features. After a short period, he learned that her name was Nura, aged 17. Due to his looks and actions, Nura noticed, and began to return the same looks. Until one day Muhammad dared and spoke to her, and learned that she was also an admirer of him. Over time, they fell in love, and Muhammad proposed marriage to her. In his weekly vacation, he spoke with his father and mother, and told them about his feelings toward his colleague. But his family's reaction was the opposite of his expectations. Muhammad's family rejected the idea of his marriage altogether, justifying their refusal by saying he was still young and their financial circumstances did not allow the step of their son's marriage at this time, as his siblings were still young and some of them in different educational stages. But Muhammad's insistence and attachment to Nura was the reason for his father and mother to retract their refusal, and in the end, they agreed. Muhammad and his family traveled to Jeddah and proposed to Nura. But they were surprised that Nura's father had prepared a large list of requests, and each request needed a budget, and they, with their difficult circumstances, could not provide even a part of its price. Muhammad's family felt embarrassed and returned to Riyadh, embarrassed by the behavior of Nura's family toward them. This was due to Muhammad's lie to them, as he had told them that the bride's family were good people, knew his circumstances well, and agreed to him. But all that was untrue talk. Due to his lie to him, Muhammad quarreled with Nura and accused her of being the reason for insulting his family. After that, he left his job and decided to look for work in a place far from Jeddah, despite the insistence of the work owners on him. But he sacrificed his job to stay away from Nura and forget her. This period passed on him with difficulty. One day, Muhammad received a call from a strange number. When he answered, he heard Nura's voice, collapsed, and she said she was in Riyadh inside the train station. He tried to calm her down and said he would reach her in minutes. He went to her indeed, and found her waiting for him with a large bag. He learned from her that she left her family's home because she could not stay away from him, and asked him to go to the nearest notary and marry. But Muhammad worried, and fear controlled him, because what Nura did was a real disaster in the customs of the Upper Egyptians, and a calamity might happen because of it. Muhammad tried to talk to her and explained to her calmly that if they married behind their families, problems would happen that they could not handle. After convincing her with his words, he took her to his family's home. There, his family was surprised by Nura in front of them, and learned what happened. Nura was trying to convince them that she traveled with her mother's knowledge, and made her talk to Muhammad and his mother. Her mother told them that she agreed to her daughter's marriage to their son. But Nura's and her mother's talk was hard to believe, because they are a conservative society, and it is difficult for things like this to happen in it. They had no choice but to preserve her and return her to her family as soon as possible. After the father's approval, Muhammad and his mother took Nura and traveled with her to Jeddah. As soon as they arrived, Nura's father shouted at his daughter and was about to hit her, but Muhammad intervened and prevented him, and tried to calm him down. Nura's father was in a difficult state because his daughter broke him by escaping from his home, and her mother helped her too. After much talk that took place between them, Nura's father agreed to their marriage, on the condition that Muhammad sign a list of movables worth 400,000 riyals to guarantee his daughter's right. Muhammad agreed to the condition, and they agreed that the marriage would be after a few months, until Nura completes 18 years so they can marry officially. After the agreement, Muhammad prepared himself for marriage, and his father rented him a house next to their house, but the house needed arrangement and many expenses. Muhammad began arranging it himself to save workers' expenses. At that time, he spent all the money he had saved, and because he was no longer able to ask for help from his father, he returned to looking for another job in several places until he found work in Medina province and started in it indeed. Due to his new job and the large distance between Medina and Riyadh, Muhammad's vacation became once a month. Due to the scarcity of vacations, the house arrangement was affected, and the matter that was done in a month became done in months. The engagement period was prolonged, and Nura's family was always in problems with Muhammad until one day, specifically in early November 2019, Muhammad's father resolved the matter and called Nura's family and set a date for the marriage with them. After agreeing on the date, Muhammad stopped arranging the house and decided to complete it after the marriage. In mid-November, they married and lived in their modest home. After a short period, Muhammad returned to his work in Medina. Before his travel, he recommended his family to Nura, and his mother reassured him about her because she loved her, and that was clear from the first day she saw her. Over time, she treated her like her daughter. Therefore, Nura was showing to her husband's siblings that she has a great place with their mother, perhaps more than them. She was always deliberately annoying Fatima, her husband's sister, and telling her that her mother loves her more than her. After a short time passed on the marriage, Nura became spending most of her day in her home, and at the end of the day, goes to her husband's family's home, and sits among them like a guest, without helping them in anything. And that was customary, especially in the family house. But Muhammad's siblings were annoyed by her actions and her exploitation of their mother's love for her. And when they objected to anything Nura does, their mother and father would defend her. And all that was happening throughout Muhammad's absence period. And when he returns, he does not know anything about his wife's actions because his siblings were not telling him anything. One day, before sunset by an hour, Nura went to her mother-in-law's home collapsed, and her dress torn. That besides her face, whose color changed. As soon as she entered her husband's family's home, she sought help from all of them, and everyone gathered around her, in a state of astonishment from her shape. Nura told her husband's family that her father-in-law assaulted her sexually. Her words shocked everyone and made them unable to speak. After their silence for seconds, her mother-in-law collapsed and was not believing what she heard. After minutes, everyone could control their feelings in an attempt to know how that happened. But Nura refused to talk in detail, and all she said is that he attacked her in her home, and when she resisted him, he hit her and assaulted her. At that time, the father-in-law returned to the home. When he learned what Nura said about him, he shouted and got angry, and denied all her words. But his wife did not believe him, and quarreled with him, and asked him for divorce. In the middle of their quarrels and shouting, the divorce fell. In seconds, everything ended. The mother called her son and asked him to return to the village quickly, but she did not tell him the reason. Muhammad heard his mother's words and returned to Riyadh quickly. After his arrival, his sister Fatima told him that his father and mother divorced, and that his wife is the reason. Muhammad went to Nura and pressed on her, because he was not believing that his father does that. Indeed, his suspicion was in place, because Nura, from the pressure on her, confessed the truth, and said that her father-in-law did not do anything, and that she claimed on him and slandered him. She did not catch to say why she did that, because Muhammad did not wait to hear her, and divorced her, and took her and traveled with her to Jeddah. After delivering her to her family's home, he left her and walked without talking in any details. Nura feared to tell her family the reason for her divorce, so she told them completely different words, which is that Muhammad is a predatory person, and employs her at his family, that besides his beating her constantly for the most trivial matters, Nura's father could not bear what he heard, and called his daughter's husband, shouted at him, and said that he is waiting for him at home. Muhammad traveled to Jeddah. Indeed, as soon as he saw him, his father-in-law shouted at him, and said that he wronged his daughter, and that he must reconcile her, and apologize to her, and return her to his custody, and return with her to her home honored and respected. But Muhammad told him all that happened, and said that Nura is a lying person, and that his siblings told him after his divorce her, that she always works with them problems, and that she is the reason for the destruction of his family's home. Due to her actions he no longer bears living with her. After hearing Nura's father Muhammad's words, his voice tone changed, and began to carry a threat, and said that he will know how to return his daughter's dignity, and demanded the 400,000 rials value of the list he signed at their marriage time, and threatened him that if he did not pay amicably, he will present it to the judicial authorities, and then he will be able to take his daughter's right by law. After hearing Muhammad his father-in-law's words, he walked shocked, and called his mother, and told her all that took place between him and his father-in-law. After his return to Riyadh, the mother told him to return her to his custody, and return with her to his home, because it is clear that her family may betray him. Muhammad heard his mother's words, and returned to his father-in-law's home, and reconciled his wife. After that, he took her from her family's home, and they returned to Riyadh. After their return, Muhammad could not bear to look at her face, nor deal with her. He told her that she will stay in the middle of his family, and will not go to her home except at the time of his return from travel. And throughout his absence period she will remain under his mother's and siblings' eye. But Nura did not like his words, and quarreled with him. After much talk, Muhammad's words were implemented. To annoy her more, he took her phone from her, and closed it, and said that she will not have another phone with her, and if she wanted to contact him, let it be through his sister's phone. Nura was almost going crazy from Muhammad's actions with her, and tried in all ways to prevent him from taking her phone, but she could not. The next day, specifically in March 2020, Muhammad woke up from sleep, and did not find his wife in the home. He understood that she escaped and left the home. He learned from his sister that this is not the first time Nura escapes. Fatima opened her heart to her brother, and told him all she was hiding from him of Noura's strange actions. After Muhammad heard his sister, he went out searching for his wife in every place. After hours, Noura appeared and returned to the home. The one who found her was the employer where Fatima works, and he asked Muhammad to act wisely and try to solve the problem calmly. But Muhammad, before talking with Noura, his sister Fatima's phone rang several times, and the caller was a strange number. When she answered, she heard a voice of a person she does not know, saying that he wants to talk to Noura. When she asked him who you are, he answered that he knows Noura. Fatima replied to him that Noura is a married woman, and it is not right for him to talk to her. The person paused a little, then said that he does not know about her marriage, and that he knows her for a period on the basis that she is not married. When Fatima asked him how he knew her number, he said that Noura sometimes talks to him from this number when she has no credit, and that he tried to contact her several times on her phone but found it closed. After Muhammad heard the call, he almost went crazy and kept shouting at Noura. She tried to defend herself and denied all that talk. His siblings and mother barely could control him. In that day, Muhammad and Noura slept in his family's home. Noura remained throughout the night, unable to sleep, turning on the bed. Muhammad was noticing all her actions, until an event happened that turned all the scales. Before dawn by an hour, Muhammad felt a weak knocking sound on the window. First, he thought the source of the sound was the window of the room he sleeps in, but when he focused with the sound, he confirmed that it is coming from his home direction. He got up from the bed quickly, and went out from his family's home. He was surprised by a person standing at his home, knocking on his bedroom window. He ran towards him quickly, but he could not catch him, because the person, as soon as he saw Muhammad, ran quickly and disappeared. When Muhammad could not catch him, he returned to his family's home. Immediately, he entered on Noura. When he found her sleeping, he did not agree to wake her and worry everyone, and waited until daybreak and Noura woke up. As soon as he asked her about the person who was knocking on his home window in the middle of the night, Noura denied knowing him, and started screaming and cursing, and accusing her husband that he wants to stick a charge to her to make a problem with her. Here, Muhammad's family entered, and tried to prevent him from hitting her. But with all his strength, he pulled Noura, and took her out from his family's home, and went with her to his home. As soon as he entered the home, he pulled the scarf that on her head, and tied her hands behind her back. At that time, Noura remained screaming and cursing with the ugliest words. He went to the bedroom, and brought 2 other scarves from her scarves, and returned to her. He tied one around her mouth to muffle her voice, and the other tied her legs with it, and was able to control her. He took her quickly, and threw her into a sewage pit, which he had dug when he was preparing the home. After that, he sat in front of her, and said to her, "Calm down, and that the best for her is to confess everything, and tell him about the man who came to his home in the middle of the night." To hear her, he went down to her in the pit, and pulled the scarf from her mouth to be able to speak. But Noura did not speak, and continued insulting him and cursing him with the ugliest words. In a moment of anger, Muhammad brought the shovel and axe, and started throwing dirt on Noura. Every time the dirt covered her, her screaming voice rose more. He did not care about her screaming and crying, and all he wanted was to bury her as soon as possible. Indeed, after minutes, the dirt covered Noura, and she was buried inside the well. After Muhammad absorbed his crime, he got up from his place, and entered the bedroom, and took out a clean dress from the wardrobe, and entered the bathroom, and took a shower. After that, he wore his clothes, and went out from the home, and went calmly to his family's home. As soon as he entered, his mother wondered about his shape and calm. So she asked him about Nura, and about the reason for her sudden silence. But Muhammad was not able to answer his mother's questions, and tried to say any words. Due to his jumbled talk, the mother suspected him, and kept insisting on him in the questions. With her insistence, he told her that he buried her in the sewage well. The mother collapsed, and screamed, and opened the door of the home, and began to call for help from the neighbors. When they gathered in front of the door of the home, she told them that her son buried his wife alive. Despite the neighbors being shocked from Muhammad's mother's words, they reported to the police what happened. After the report, a force from the police arrived to investigate the report. When asking Muhammad about the truth of the report, he said that the neighbor's words are true, and that he buried his wife while she was alive. In the inspection, Muhammad guided the policemen to the place of his wife's body. When the police dug, they found her inside the well, whose depth is 2 meters, and width 1.5 meters. After extracting her, her body was transferred to the morgue, and Muhammad was arrested. Muhammad said in the investigations that he intended to kill her, because she destroyed his life and his family's life, and that after discovering that she is a traitorous woman, in the night he discovered her betrayal, he decided to get rid of her. The subject of her betrayal had no evidence except for Muhammad's words in the investigations. After the end of the investigations with him, and recording his statements and his family's statements, and also the neighbors' statements who confirmed in the investigations that they were always hearing sounds of screaming and quarrel between Muhammad and his wife Nura, the accused was transferred to the Riyadh Criminal Court on July 28, 2021. The verdict was issued on the accused Muhammad Yahya with death by hanging, based on killing his wife Nura with premeditation and stalking. Story 2. In 2015, in Jeddah province, in the Kafra el-Shaki area belonging to Jeddah Center, there lived a girl named Sarah, aged 26. She lived with her mother in a simple house, and had no siblings. She was responsible for her sick mother after her father's death, and works to spend on herself and her mother, and also to prepare herself, as she was engaged to a person named Yasser. As for Yasser, her fiancé, he was 38 years old, and works as a mechanic. Due to his average financial situation, he was trying to work a lot to fulfill his obligations. Yasser and Sarah loved each other, especially Yasser, whose love was apparent from his actions and attention, and his many visits to her. Sarah was happy with his actions with her, and that was the opposite of her mother's opinion, who was refusing her daughter's engagement to him altogether, because she does not like him, and fears him on her daughter. She tried a lot to convince her to separate from him, especially since he is a person with bad reputation, because of his imprisonment twice previously, once in a coercion theft case, and the second in a drugs case. But Sarah refused her mother's words categorically, and defended Yasser, and it reached her to quarrel with her for him. When the mother despaired of convincing her daughter, she committed to silence, and no longer talked to her in the subject again. After a few months, the disease increased on Sarah's mother, and after a short period, she died. After her death, Sarah lived alone, sad. But Yasser did not leave her in her crisis. He was always consoling her, and visiting her continuously and daily. Due to his many visits to her, while she is alone, the village people began to talk about them in a shameful way, that besides their looks at her full of disgust, when the people's talk about her and her fiancé reached Sarah, and she saw their looks at her, she talked to Yasser, and asked him to marry in the nearest time, because that is what will protect her from the looks and tongues of her neighbors. But Yasser shocked her, and said that he has no money, and is not ready at the current time for marriage. After his talk with her, Sarah felt sadness and despair inside her. But after a short time, she occupied herself with work more than before. The days passed, and Sarah got to know by chance a young man named Amin. The young man was working as a sales representative, and goes to Sarah in the store, where she works as a seller. Amin was a simple person, and on his intentions to the extreme degree. Due to his nature, most workers were treating him in a way with ignore. But Sarah was treating him in a good way, and does not allow anyone from the workers to treat him in a bad way. Due to her way and attention to him, Amin admired her, and began to wait for her every day in front of the store door until she arrives to her work. One day, Sarah did not go to her work, so Amin worried about her. The next day, when Sarah appeared, before entering the store, she was surprised by Amin waiting for her, and it was clear from his way that he is tense and worried. After reassuring her, he talked to her, and expressed his feelings toward her, and said that he admires her, and wants to marry her. He told her that his father is a man of good condition, and has land and stores and a lot of money in the bank. But Sarah was not believing what he said, because his talk was hard to believe, due to his appearance and his simple job as a sales representative, and describing his father's financial situation. He is able to open a large store for him. Here, Sarah asked him what ran in her mind, so Amin answered that his father made him work in the market to know him the value of money, and because he wants him to learn how to deal with people. He completed his talk and said that his father does not like spending his money, except on important matters. From all this talk, Sarah understood what between the lines, which is that Amin's father is a very careful person, and understood the situation. She asked him for a deadline to think about his offer. After exactly 2 days, Sarah replied to him with approval. From his joy, Amin went to his father, and informed him of the news. After days, Amin and his father visited Sarah in her home. Haj Saeed asked for her hand for his son. After learning that she is alone, and has no one after her parents' death, Haj Saeed told her that he bought a small house for his son to marry him in it, and that all he asks from her is to preserve his son, and take care of him. Sarah agreed to Amin's father's words, and reassured him that she will fear God in his son. After their talk, they read the Fatiha, and set the wedding date after weeks. Sarah and Amin married at the time they set, and lived happily. After 2 months of their marriage, Sarah learned that she is pregnant, so Amin prevented her from work completely, and made her rest in the home. After completing the months of pregnancy, she gave birth to a boy. The boy became all their life. After a year, she gave birth to another child. And they continued on this way, until they reached 4 children, and the difference between each child and the other is 1 year. Amin was happy with his children, because he was in need of support around him. Sarah was thinking like him too. But with the passage of time, Amin's work was no longer as before, and the children's expenses increased on him. Due to these pressures, quarrels occurred between Sarah and Amin, with the days. And every time their children's needs increase, Amin's shortcoming appears in front of Sarah, until their situation reached quarrels and shouting. The matters worsened between them to the degree that Sarah became imprisoning herself in her children's room, and not dealing with her husband at all. One day, their neighbor in the building heard a shouting sound between them. The neighbor was named Sharuk, and her relationship with Sarah was good. Sharuk waited until Amin went down from the home, and knocked on Sarah. After much talk that took place between them, Shahrukh knew the reason for the problems and shouting. She thought of a solution that can help Sarah to overcome her crisis and her financial problems. Shahrukh told her about a job in a cafeteria she works in, presenting orders to customers. And she can talk to the place owner to employ Sarah half a day for the sake of her children. Sarah agreed, and asked Shahrukh some questions to understand the nature of the work. After a little, Shahrukh walked, and Sarah remained thinking about her neighbor's talk, and was very excited. Throughout the day, the topic controlled her thinking. As soon as Amin returned from his work in the evening, she presented the idea to him, and was happy and pleased while telling him. But Amin surprised her with his refusal, and the reason is that their children are still small, and the youngest girl in them has not completed a year yet. Sarah was annoyed by his words, and tried to convince him that her work schedules will be during his presence in the home, and that she will return before his descent to his work. With the insistence, Amin agreed against his will, so as not to upset her. After 2 days, Sarah received her job in the cafeteria. Among the work conditions was that she remove the hijab and wear a uniform specific to the work. Sarah agreed immediately, without hesitation. Especially that her hijab was just a small scarf covering part of her hair, meaning just shape, and that's it. That, besides the revealing uniform describing the details of her body, all that Sarah hid from her husband, because the salary and tips tempted her, and blinded her eyes, and made her implement the cafeteria owner's conditions without thinking. Month after month, money increased in her hand, and she remained the one spending on the home, and all that Amin shorten, she completes it. She became every day, and upon her return from work, buying him the cigarette box he smokes. Because the store's income was dupe enough for a simple part of their children's requests. Every time money increases in Sarah's hand, her state changes, and her confidence in herself increases. Sarah began to care about herself, and bought makeup and accessories, and distanced from her children very much. Amin was silent, but noticing everything. His silence did not last much, because he felt a radical change in his wife, whether in her shape or in her talk, that besides her treatment with him, changed for the worse. Every time Amin objected to something Sarah does, she would scream at him, and accuse him of being short with her in finances. With time, the 4 children were affected by their mother's distance from them, and her preoccupation with her work more than them. When Amin found that the quarrel does not bring a result with Sarah, and she is determined on what in her mind, he began to talk to her with reason and calm, and promised her that he will see another work besides tailoring, to be able to suffice the requests of his home and children, that besides, he will do the impossible to achieve all her requests for her. Sarah responded, and felt that his talk is right, and agreed with him to complete the month in her work, and after that take a vacation, and sit in the home to take care of her children, but on the condition that if he does not implement his promise to her, she will return again to her work. Amin agreed to her words, and the two after the agreement, their state became better. Sarah requested a vacation from her manager, and he agreed. But he said that her vacation will start after closing the month, to take her salary full. She returned and said to Amin that she implemented her agreement with him. One day, Sarah went down to her work as every day, and Amin was with his children in the home. At 7 in the evening, he called her to reassure her, and see why she delayed, because she was supposed to arrive home at 5:30. But he found her phone closed, hour after the other, and no new, so his worry increased, because the time delayed, and the hour entered on 9. He called her neighbor Shahrukh, and asked her about her. She replied that she does not know anything about her, because she was on vacation today from her work. The tension increased more, and he left his children and went to the cafeteria where Sarah works. Here was the surprise. The cafeteria owner said to Amin that she did not come to work at all, and that he called her several times and could not reach her. Amin did not wait and went to Amancha police station to make a report of her absence. He learned that the report must be done after 24 hours from the time of absence. Then, he walked, and he is almost going crazy, and went to several hospitals to ask about her. But when the time delayed, he feared for his children, and returned home quickly to reassure them. The next day, he went down and made the report, and from another side, he went down searching for her. His problem was that Sarah, like him, has no relatives, and no friends or acquaintances she can go to. Searching for her was difficult, and all bad ideas he imagined. Day passed and the other, until a month passed on Sarah's disappearance, and Amin despaired of finding her. Since his children in his neck and he, searching for his wife, the neighbors got bored of him every little leaving them at them that besides, he has no money to feed them, and debts increased on him from much borrowing. Therefore, he and his children tired, especially the little girl who Yadub, her age 2 years, and was always crying because she wants her mother. One day, he dressed his children, and collected their clothes in a bag, and took them, and went with them to the nearest police station. As soon as he arrived there, he said that this time he came to deliver his children, because he killed their mother. After this sentence, the investigation was opened with him, and he said in his confession that after a time passed on Sarah's disappearance, he received a call from a strange number. When he answered, he was surprised by Sarah's voice talking to him, and she said that he does not try to search for her, because she will not return again, and that she is happy with her new life, and wants him to divorce her, because she is no longer able to continue with him. She said that her children, she is still responsible for them, and therefore she will send them a small amount temporarily, and after a week, she will send another amount. Amin was in a state of astonishment after the call, and refused to believe that this is Sarah, his wife. But against his will, he woke up, and began to absorb what he heard. After 10 minutes, a message arrived from a number with a transfer of 3,000 rials to his wallet. He tried several times to call the number that Sarah called him from, but the number was always closed. After days, a strange number called him, and it was Sarah. When he asked her about her place, she replied to him the same previous reply, and said that she changes her numbers, and he does not try to search for her. She continued and said that she will send another transfer now. Amin told her that her children want to talk to her, and Yarit call after 2 days, because he is in Jeddah. She agreed to call after 2 days to talk to her children. After a little, a transfer arrived to Amin, with an amount of 5,000 rials, and it was from the same number that was transferred from previously. Amin remained thinking, then called this number, so he was surprised by a strange person answering him. When Amin asked him about his place, the person said that he is in a bazaar in Mecca. Amin took the address from him, then withdrew the money, and bought food for his children, and returned home quickly, and collected a bag, put in it clothes, and wired an old phone he has. After that, he left his apartment key at his neighbor Shrouk, and traveled to Mecca. Amin arrived at the bazaar place, and remained standing monitoring it. After hours, Sarah called. He answered her, and said to her that he is now in the hospital with their eldest son, and that he is inside, doing an operation after a little, because he fell on his leg and broke. He asked her to send him money urgently. Sarah said that she will transfer to him 2,000 rials in minutes. Here, Amin prepared well. After minutes, Sarah appeared, and was wearing revealing clothes, and entered the bazaar, did the transfer, and went out. Amin remained, monitoring her until she sat in a cafe with a man. After a little, she and the man got up, and remained walking until they reached a building. Before entering, the strange man kissed her on her cheek, then walked. Amin entered behind her quickly without her feeling and saw which apartment she entered, and remained monitoring her 2 days until he confirmed that she lives alone in the apartment. But the man who was with her was staying up with her every day and escorts her to her apartment. In the 3rd day, Amin went to her and knocked on her. Sarah opened and was surprised by him in front of her. Before Sarah speaks, Amin put his hands on her mouth and muffled her breath and entered with her inside the apartment. After that, he tied her and asked her why she did all that. She said to him that when she was working in the cafeteria, she got to know a person, and he was admirer of her, and asked her to go work with him in a big hotel in Mecca. She agreed to his words, because she wanted to live a life other than her depressing life with Amin. Indeed, she traveled and worked in the hotel, and began to take a lot of money. When he asked her about her relationship with this person, she refused to say what between him and her. He remained beating her with all his strength, without feeling. He strangled her until she died in his hands. After that, he returned to Jeddah, and went to the police station, and surrendered himself, with him, his children. Because in their situation, any care home will accept to receive them. Indeed, it was confirmed that Amin killed Sarah, and he was transferred after that to the Jeddah Criminal Court. In late 2024, the verdict was issued on Amin with death by hanging. Story 3, Peace Be Upon You. In 2000, in Dammam province, specifically in Dar al-Ramad neighborhood, there lived a young man named Abdullah, famous as Aman, aged 22. He was a young man from a large and known family in the village. But unfortunately, he was not like his family, and was a disgrace to them, because all his actions and crimes exceeded all limits. The most important thing to him was money, and imposing control on everyone around him. Due to that, everyone distanced from him, fearing him. He was any person who can request him in a fight for a large material equivalent. One day Ayman quarreled with his neighbor's son Salah, and the quarrel reached beating, and because of it Salah died. Due to his death, Ayman was arrested, and registered with the charge of quarrel and beating, leading to death, and was sentenced to prison for 10 years. Ayman got out of prison after serving his sentence. After his release by a few months, his siblings offered him the idea of marriage, hoping that his condition might improve, and stay away from the path of thuggery. After thinking about the matter, he agreed, and asked them to look for him a bride. Indeed, they chose him a good girl from a simple family, and he proposed to her, and the marriage took place. After that, they lived in the middle of his family. After a few months of their marriage, God blessed them with a child, named Mustafa. At that time, Ayman tried to work and earn halal, but people as fear of him, because of his bad reputation, was making them refuse to employ him with them. When Aman was no longer able to bear the lack of money, he returned to the path of thuggery again, but this time he became more severe than before. His wife tried a lot to pull him to the halal path, especially since she gave birth to 2 girls after Mustafa. But all her attempts failed, unfortunately, until one day he thought of a satanic idea, and arranged for it well, and began implementing it. Ayman kidnapped a girl and a boy, and imprisoned them in a place, and threatened them with killing if they did not implement his requests. He asked them to have a relationship with each other, and he photographs them to sell the video. The girl and the boy had no choice but to agree, and they responded to him, fearing him and his threats. After finishing the photography, he threatened them that if they reported him, he would end their lives, then left them to go. After hours, the policemen arrested him, because the girl and the boy he photographed submitted a report against him. When the policemen opened his phone, they saw the video he photographed for the boy and the girl, and confirmed their words. After that, he was transferred to the court for the second time, and was sentenced to prison for 6 years. After Ayman's imprisonment, his wife decided to end her connection with him, because she no longer bears his actions and crimes, and also her terror for her children from him. Therefore, she raised a divorce case for harm against him, and indeed, she was ruled with divorce. After the passage of the 6 years, Ayman got out of prison, but this time he did not find anyone waiting for him from his family, or knowing him. Everyone distanced from him, and he also distanced from them, and lived in a house he bought from money he had saved before prison. The house was on the outskirts of the town, in the middle of agricultural lands, and specifically on the ring road near Abdul Monam, Riyadh Square. The house was large, consisting of 2 floors. After settling in it, he tried to return to his ex-wife, mother of his children, but she was completely refusing. He asked her to take his children, and she refused to. They continued in negotiations until in the end, his ex-wife agreed, and let their son Mustafa live with his father. Ayman was surprised that Mustafa grew up, and reached 9 years, that besides, he was surprised that he is a polite and raised boy, and memorized parts of the Holy Quran. Due to his son's personality, Ayman was happy with him, and knew that his mother did well in raising him. In an unexpected moment, Ayman announced his repentance, and not returning to the harem path again. The topic was the axis of astonishment from everyone. After his condition changed for the better, because of his son, his siblings began to approach him again. Ayman tried a lot to work, but people were refusing to employ him with them. Despite that, he did not lose hope in finding a halal livelihood source for him and his son, until God honored him, and found a job as a guard in a place far from his home and village, and agreed to it, and did not matter to him the nature of the work, and the most important thing to him was providing money, halal. After a few months, Ayman's siblings, specifically Ahmad and Muhammad, talked to him and offered him the idea of marriage for the second time, because Mustafa, his son, is still small, and most of the time sits alone, so he is definitely in need of care and attention. Ayman was convinced by Muhammad and Ahmad's talk, and agreed to the idea, but he did not have a suitable bride for him. His siblings told him that they know a woman whose circumstances are very suitable. The woman was named Rania, divorced, and has 2 daughters from her first husband, a daughter named Jana, and the other Nira. Ayman's siblings praised her morals and her good biography. After hearing from them, he took the step, and proposed to Rania. Ayman noticed when proposing to Rania, that she lives in a family house, and most of her relatives live near her family's home, and that her relationship with her family and relatives is strong and has cohesion. In October 2020, Ayman and Rania married, and lived a happy life. Rania's daughters lived with their mother in the same home, and Ayman was taking care of them, and treating them as if they were his daughters exactly. The months passed, and one day Rania asked her husband to bring her mother and her sister Rubab, and her sister's little daughter Maram to live with her, because her home is far from the village, and she needs their presence with her. Ayman agreed to her request, and welcomed them. After days, Rania's family settled with her, and Ayman provided them with a suitable place in his home to live in comfortably, and also took care of all their expenses, One day, Ayman noticed that his son's conditions are changed, and he remained most of the time nervous and not in his natural state. That besides, he is always lazy and wants to sleep continuously. Ayman asked Rania to take care of Mustafa a little, especially during his absence from the home in his work. Rania's reply to him was that she cares for him, and takes care of him more than her daughters, and reassured him that Mustafa will be fine with time. Until one day, specifically in the beginning of September 2021, Ayman received a call from Rania and she was worried, her voice trembling, and asked him to come quickly because Mustafa is very tired and she does not know how to act. At that time, Ayman moved quickly from his work and went to the home. As soon as he arrived, he took his son quickly and went with him to the nearest doctor. After examining Mustafa, his father was shocked that his son has a stroke. And the strange that a boy in this age gets a stroke. Quickly, the doctor did analyses for Mustafa to know its cause. When the results of the analysis appeared, it became clear that he takes large quantities of sedatives, that besides the sleeping pill that was clear in the analysis, Ayman was not absorbing how that happened, and tried to talk with his son to understand from him, but Mustafa did not have a clear answer. All he said is that a strange thing happens to him for a period, which is that Rania, or one of her daughters, daily brings him a glass of juice. And after drinking it, he feels severe laziness and wants to sleep, although before it he is awake and wants to play. When he refused to drink the juice, Rania would get angry at him and make him drink it against his will. Ayman was hearing him with his mind unable to absorb or believe what is said. In the middle of his confusion, he received a call from a strange number. When he answered, he heard a voice of a woman he does not know telling him to beware of his wife and her actions, and the best for him is to search behind her and see what she does in his absence. After that, the woman closed the call. After the call that reached him, and because of what happened to Mustafa, Ayman felt that there is a secret and he must know it. He decided to monitor Rania and know what she does in his absence. When she asked him about Mustafa, he told her that he is a little tired and needs rest, and asked her to care for him, and that he will go down now to go to his work. And that what Ayman understood to Rania. But in truth, he remained present near the home, and was monitoring her from afar. When night entered, he saw two men riding a motorcycle, stopped in front of the home, and entered inside. At that time, Ayman was like a volcano, and was confused between entering the home and knowing what is happening, or waiting and monitoring and knowing the truth. After a time passed and he standing thinking, he saw the two men and they exiting from the home, and walked. Over days, after confirming that strange things happen in his home and he does not know them, Amin returned to the home early from his usual time. Rania was surprised by him, and in his talk with her, he felt that she is tense. He got angry, and took her phone, and searched it. Here, he discovered her truth. Amin saw on her phone pornographic conversations, and groups she manages for practicing prostitution. From his shock, he hit her with extreme force in front of her mother and sister and her daughters. When he pressed on her, Rania confessed to Amin the truth, and said to him that she practices prostitution from 17 years, and not her only, but her family all work with her, even her mother practices for profit. Amin allowed her to complete the rest of her confessions, which she said that her aunt's daughters practice vice too, and that they are a large network, and have many clients. After she finished her talk, he made her call her aunt's daughters to come, and told him to understand them that there are clients on arrival. Rania implemented his words to the letter. After that, Amin detained Rania and her sister and their daughters and her mother, and prepared for them what they were not imagining. After the arrival of Rania's aunt's daughters, Amin called his sister Naila, because she was suspecting Rania. And she is the only one who was not comfortable with her, but she did not have evidence to prove her feeling and suspicion in her. After he talked to Naila, he called 4 of his friends, and asked them to come to him in the home, and agreed with them that they will help him. As for Rania, she was surprised she and her family that they are threatened with firearms, and if they did not confess everything, Amin and those with him will finish them. From here, a strong threat series began for all those present. And Rania had the largest share in all these threat stages, and all that to lure them in talk until he knows all hidden. But the catastrophe is that Amin was shocked when he learned that his brothers Muhammad and Ahmed were among Rania's and her family's clients, and that they are in a relationship with her for more than 2 years, and that when Amin was in prison, and they are the ones who suggested to her the idea of her marriage to their brother because he is imprisoned for years and certainly does not know who she is, nor what she does, that besides his house is in an agricultural area, no houses in it, nor neighbors, meaning, she will be able to receive her clients as she wants, and all that in exchange for 2,000 riyals per month for each one of them. After Amin heard Rania's talk, he stripped her of all her clothes completely, and hung her from her legs in front of her family and in front of all those present, and remained beating her until she lost consciousness. After that, he assaulted her sexually, she and her mother and her sister and her aunt's daughters. The situation continued on this way for 2 months. In the middle of what he was doing in Rania, she died in his hands. After that, Amin ordered her mother and her sister and her aunt's daughters to dig a large and deep hole in a room from the bedrooms. Rania's family implemented his words, and dug a hole that reached its depth to 4 meters. After that, Naila, Amin's sister and Rania's mother washed Rania, and shrouded her, and buried her in the hole. Amin brought concrete, and poured it on her. After that, he returned to complete what he was doing in all those present. Each one from Rania's family was seeing herself in her place, and that death is her inevitable fate. But Amin decided to change his plan, and did what does not occur to anyone's mind. Amin opened his phone, and made a live broadcast on Facebook, and made Rania's daughters and her aunt's daughters confess everything in the live broadcast. Among Rania's daughters' talk was that their mother presented them to 2 clients when their age was 9 years and 11 years, and that the 2 girls lost their virginity at that age. They completed their confessions, and said the names of all the people who were frequenting their home, whether teachers or captains or vegetable and fruit sellers. The broadcast duration was more than 30 minutes, and during them Amin was trying to prove his innocence, and that he is a victim of deception from Rania, his wife, she and her family. And that was with the help of his brothers, Muhammad and Ahmed. The live broadcast spread everywhere, and was not one, but reached 3 broadcasts from his personal page. On Tuesday, corresponding to November 2, 2021, Amin killed his mother-in-law with a gunshot. Due to the sound of the gunshot, a security patrol present at Abdul Monam Riyadh Square heard the sound, and quickly the patrol moved in the direction of the sound source. After their arrival, they besieged the home, and tried to storm, but the police forces discovered that there are chains tied on all the windows and entrances to the home. After minutes, Amin screamed loudly, and directed his talk to the security forces, and said that he has hostages, numbering 14 hostages, including children. Based on his words, the reinforcements were from the police, with special forces, and central security forces, and investigations and rescue teams, and the place was completely besieged, and all roads leading to it were closed. The dialogue began from outside the home with Amen, through known personalities in the town to influence him, and make him release the hostages. In a late time of the same day, Amen released a boy and a girl, and among them was his son Mustafa. After that, he continued to hold the rest of the hostages. In an attempt from one of the town's elders, with Amen to know his demands to release the hostages, Amen told him that he wants all the people whose names were mentioned in the live broadcast, and they all come in front of the home. Of course, Amen's request was impossible to implement, but he insisted on his position. After 48 hours, the security forces were able to deal with the situation with extreme wisdom, and the home was stormed, and the hostages were released. Amen was injured with a bullet in his left-hand palm, and a bullet in the thigh. In the end, he was arrested, without any losses in lives. And all hostages were freed, and transferred to medical examination to know the extent of their injuries and treatment. Rania's daughters and Rubab's daughter, after their treatment, were deposited in a care home, while Mustafa was delivered to his mother. The investigations with the accused continued for 180 days. After the end of the investigations, they were transferred to the Dammam Criminal Court. The public prosecution charged Amen and his partners with 20 charges, the most prominent of which is killing the victim Rania and her mother with premeditation and stalking. On June 4, 2022, the verdict was issued on Abdullah, said the famous Amen with death by hanging, and on Muhammad Ahmad in absentia with 15 years imprisonment, and on Imam Sid in person with 15 years, and on Ihab Muhammad with 3 years in Sabrin. Sid and her fame Naila was sentenced to imprisonment for 2 years. Amen's case was known media as the Dammam kidnapping. At the time of its occurrence and circulation, people appeared defending him, and some of them said that Aman was a good and beloved person, and in another opinion, sees that Aman is a criminal from before the last incident. That besides, videos appeared from the people whose names were mentioned in the live broadcast, and defended themselves in it, and said that they have no connection neither with Rania nor with her family. In the end of the case, the judiciary acknowledged that Aman is a criminal and killer, and sentenced him with the severest sentence as a result of his actions. To here ends the story. See you in the next episode, and good night, and happiness.